All right.
Okay, so actually, I completely lost track of the time because I was finishing the liveness probes. I actually have something working. Jarv, your item is first. Should we go through your item?
Yeah, sure. So I just wanted to go through all the things that we need to get done before we put this on Canary. The first thing is just something for infrastructure, which is increasing the load on Canary. And this is going to be adding more nodes to the Canary stage and increasing the amount of traffic. And then the second thing is that we need to figure out what to do about this readiness check. So we switched to the web exporter. This means we're going to switch the load balancer health check to use readiness. I mean, what should we be using for the health check after this change?
Like, definitely not readiness.
Yes, I know you don't like the readiness, Andrew.
But
we can't use
that.
Yes, because we can't use health.
So, no, I would say differently. We should switch to readiness. The question is like how we should improve the behavior of the readiness to be actually safe to switch that. Because like we have liveness, which is very well defined. It's actually that server is responding. It should return okay if its server is responding. Readiness is actually for testing whether application can accept traffic. So I know, Andrew, that you have some legitimate concerns about the readiness. So can we solve that concerns?
The thing is that like in my experience, the number of times that you have a running application where you've been saved by the fact that your health check, you had an application that was responding but was badly configured, and you were saved by the fact that your health check was reporting down. Like it's a nice idea in concept. I've never seen it in reality actually happen. Like my experience, like I've never seen it that, you know, something got taken out of the load balancer because you had like some chef config on that change on that. What I have seen a lot of is that you have a very temporary blip in a downstream service, and that like totally destroys your entire service because of this. So like what I'm trying to say is that it's a nice idea, but like the upside from having this is it's very small, and the downside from having it is very big. So like, you know, there are things that we can do, but I would just rather not have, you know, any database checks or any Giddily checks in the readiness. Like, and if we want to turn it,
so like I think we discussed that on the issue. We should make readiness only to check the worker state, that it can actually accept the traffic.
Yeah.
And basically then make like the application itself to produce a proper error messaging to the user if for some reason, I don't know, database is not working. This is the conclusion of the readiness. Because like what I am doing with the readiness now is like the Unicode or Puma state or the web exporter state, whether it can accept traffic, is actually one of the checks. So the conclusion is that we only leave this check and remove database, Gitali, and Redis checks from this readiness probe.
Yeah, that would be superb. And then if you can have it like, you know, like in the example that blog post had, which is like you finished caching all the data or whatever, you can turn on your readiness after that. Or in the case of pages, obviously we're not using pages here, but it could be like we finish reading in the pages database, and then readiness turns on if you follow.
So on pages, actually, the status check is implemented like that. If you ask about that. So like on the pages right now, we are reading database from the disk, and if we go into tangential topic, pages gonna give you like the success status once it read the database for the first time.
Yeah. So yeah, as long as like that, I like that's great. Like if we can do something like that where we take it out of readiness while we're booting, and then everything else about it I really like, and the fact that it's running on a different port. And it's not going to get caught with unicorn latency problems and all of that. Like I think it's great. It was just the downstream stuff that I was concerned about.
Okay, so the end result here is that we will switch the health check possibly only on the web fleet, or should we switch it everywhere? I would say everywhere if we're going to switch it, which means API and web.
I would say everywhere as well, but first we
Mhm.
should start like with staging and testing that on staging, because once we deploy
Yeah.
like this thing of the web exporter stuff, it actually kind of changes the behavior, how you validate the application readiness today. And we need to run that through staging. I'm very close to finishing
no
this.
disagreement.
Uh,
We're
I'm
definitely going to run it on staging.
I'm very close to finishing the readiness stuff that like we discussed and we kind of agreed to. There is like the left part is exposing this configuration in the omnibus, but I would assume that like I don't know, in the 1 week from now, this new readiness shiny new awesome check gonna be available for you to consume.
Yeah, so right, so do this on staging, and we can also do the health check just on the Canary stage, so it will be pretty limited as well. And then once we're confident in that, we can move on to production. I was just wondering, Camille, is this going to be wrapped up? Because I think you're going away for a week, right? Is this going to be wrapped up before then?
I'm gonna have all the merge requests ready. Alexi gonna take over of that merge request and getting them merged.
Okay.
Like I have all application changes done and sound. I hope that I finish Omnibus GitLab addition of the config. But this is effectively like the last item to introduce readiness check. And actually these two merge requests are in fact assigned to both of you to review, because they actually they are completed in sense of how the implementation looks. I now work on the application boot up, this blackout period addition to the readiness check. But I'm gonna finish that in 1 hour from now.
That sounds great. Okay.
I'm linking actually MRs at the top. I know that you saw already the first one. You may look into the second one. It's very straightforward. What is the behavior?
Great. Maren, do you want to talk about the 50-50 Puma unicorn point, or do you want to keep that?
I'm not sold on whether it has to be 50-50 or not. I'm just trying to suggest Canary traffic is going to take more, or sorry, we're going to see more Canary traffic, and our whole company is routed to Canary. Obviously, we can kill that at any point, but what I would like to see is whether we can do things in parallel for a bit to just have more confidence that the performance is not dropping, that our availability is not dropping for whatever reason with all of the toolings we have. And then once we have higher confidence, just rip out the rest of the unicorns on Canary and run exclusively on Puma for a while.
Right. Yeah, I mean, what we can do is we can increase the traffic to Canary. Maybe we can even identify some non-GitLab projects to put it there once we're confident, and just slowly increase traffic on it without decreasing the main stage, which means that the main stage will be over provisioned. And if things look good, yeah, so we could do that. And I think we'll just probably set a target for how many requests per second we want. You know, obviously what we have now, I put the numbers now, we have only 120 requests per second going now and 3,000 going to the main stage. So maybe we set a target like at least 500 requests per second for the Canary stage.
What I would say is we want to match the same number of requests per node. So if production, obviously we're 3,000 requests per second, but that's across 30 nodes. So, you know, work back and it should,
Yeah, that's something.
If we already don't have a way to test this on staging, I want Canary to be our testing bed that is representative of what we are going to see on production.
Sure. Yeah, so Andrew, I think it's about like 60% of the traffic on a given node. So so we could, the plan in that change request I linked, we're going to add more request paths. We'll do that slowly and see.
How many nodes do we have in Canary? Because the other way you could do it is take nodes away.
We can't because we only have 2 actually. It's so I mean, and we really want 2, I think.
Yeah, no,
so
no.
Yeah, so we'll leave it there and we'll see where we are after I increase the request paths. I prefer only to use GitLab projects, but you know, we'll just see what happens.
Use some spammy projects that like I can give you. Right. I mean, I'm actually.
That is a good idea. No, that is a great idea.
Sure.
That is a great idea.
Go look in the abuse channel. There's like that, the Windows greatest mouse clicker or whatever it is. Go use that.
sounds like a plan. Okay, I'll add that. Yeah, well, let's do the change request first, and then we'll see, and then we can add more projects. Yeah.
You had a point about adding a third stage, and like that seems like extra complexity. Is it definitely needed?
No, it's not. I mean, that was just what I was. If we wanted to do, I think what maybe Maren had in mind. Maybe I misunderstood. That's what I was thinking. But let's not go down that path unless we absolutely need to.
Okay.
What did I have in mind? I mean, I don't have anything in mind
50,
in general.
50, so. You said 50-50.
Yeah, I said.
So like, I can't really I mean, it's hard to create a 50% canary because we would have to identify a whole lot of request paths and it would be a bit unmanageable. So
Sure. The point is running both of them in the same environment with the same number of requests for a while. How we handle that, I don't necessarily care. I just want to see the similar result.
Maybe let's see, like having the same number of requests going to Puma on a given, let's just say on a given node. I don't want to have
on a given node.
Yeah, then it makes sense. Yeah.
On a given node is fine.
The next item I also have, which is the test plan. How about if maybe I can work with the quality team to do this? I mean, I have a lot of experience testing these reloads already, so I can come up with something and then have them look at it as well, see if they have more ideas. Josh, I guess you're the next point.
Sorry.
Yeah, quality needs to be absolutely included in this type of testing. We are ripping out like a major component of GitLab, and that needs to be tested.
Okay, I have one proposition because like we have a lot of comments in between. I created section actions at the end. If we could like make this very like short about like the future actions with potential links. Does it sound okay?
No, that's great.
Camille, what is remove from? Oh, I see. Remove from the readiness check. I see, and then switch to readiness. Got it. Do you want to talk, Josh? Do you have the node downtime for the single node?
Sure. I just want to double check one aspect. There is a slight, not regression, but impact to the kind of zero downtime upgrade. We put that in quotes, air quotes for the single nodes. I just want to double check that we don't see a viable path to improving it. I don't think it's a showstopper. I just want to double check and just ask the question.
So wait, we need to be very clear what kind of zero downtime we are talking about here. Single nodes upgrades have never been zero downtime. So that doesn't need to change. We kind of trained everyone. But the problem is with reload of the application. If that becomes downtime inducing, we have a major problem, and that can't change because all of our tooling, everything is counting on reconfigure being safe to run at any point in time. So reconfigure, changing anything in GitLab RB, running it on cron, all of that cannot impact the application. That is the zero downtime I'm most concerned about. If that changes, we have a major impactful breaking change that can cause a lot of problems for everyone.
Don't we have instructions, Marin, for, I know it's downtime by default, but there are instructions to say, like, if you want to do an omnibus package upgrade without actually, restarting the services, you can do that, and then
correct.
And then we advertise it as no downtime. So what do we say to these customers? That we just say there's going to be a 30 to 60-second downtime where there wasn't before, or what?
Well, it's pretty simple. We don't tell them anything because we can't do that without major re-architecting the package, because the whole zero downtime process of upgrading on multi-nodes also depends on you running GitLab control reconfigure and that not inducing any problems on groups of nodes. So not everyone is taking out things out of the load balancers like we are doing right now.
So likely the problem of the single node is quite hard to solve, but we should address the problem of multiple nodes where people may not have like load balancer configured with the health check. And this is what we have to improve, because I'm not sure if we actually promote usage of the health check, and this is kind of crucial for having basically like properly supported zero downtimes. And it's not only like Puma or Unicorn oriented, but it's rather like the general guideline that we should impose, that if you use load balancer, you should use also health checks to ensure that application is properly working. And this is actually, I think that this is the biggest deficiency right now in our documentation. How we actually document HA, if it actually like mentions how to use properly health checks, if it mentions to use the usage of the health checks, it means that we need to update this documentation to switch to a separate exporter endpoint with the health check, because this is required.
Absolutely. But we also don't list anything load balancer related, because we can't cover all the load balancers that our customers could use. And last time I checked, and this was not in the past couple of months, so probably last year, we had no other advice for our customers who are using the load balancers. We were just saying, well, you kind of know what you're doing if you have your own. But if you, sorry, continue.
Sorry, carry on.
No, it doesn't matter. Continue.
I was just going to say, like, to Camille's point, like, even if we don't like cover specific ones, it probably is a really good idea just to say, for your load balancer, this is.
Yeah,
this
I agree,
good.
but that's like, this is what we can do with that is recommend to people.
Yes. Yeah.
Recommend that they should do that.
An omnibus configuration, right? It's just a piece of documentation.
Yeah, I think we need to do a lot of work to our zero downtime upgrade documentation. It doesn't mention that HA is a requirement, so it doesn't. I mean, you can infer that, but we actually had pretty low impact, I think, on a single node based on the previous discussion, right? That
that's true. We are not very explicit. You're right there. I mean, we do say multi-nodes, and I mean that's not.
I don't think so.
Like, there is no other way you can actually set up. Do we?
There's nothing in there about multi-node that I just read through.
Oh my God! Did that change recently? Okay, sorry, Camille, go ahead.
So actually, like, I think my proposal is like, we need to have proper zero downtime documentation stating how the zero downtime works, because right now we seem to cover HA, but we basically need to cover zero downtime. I know that like we have the update, maintenance update, but technically it's like it's update centric, but it's not zero downtime centric. And so like as for the Puma, we could probably provide the support for what is Unicorn doing, but it's so nuts what is Unicorn doing right now that this is the last thing that I would like to do. And rather, I think we should be saying and kind of really say that this is the health checks, how you should configure them, and kind of have actually zero downtime documentation stating you need at least 2 nodes with the load balancer. This is the requirement. You cannot work differently if you want to have the zero downtime. Because for me right now, it seems that our zero downtime, as Marin is saying, is kind of like, for me, working by first side effect of the system behavior, not really as something that we support properly, because it works only for the unicorn in very specific circumstances.
I'm just seeing now that our docs have been changed and updated, and I don't know who did it, but a lot of this information here is questionable, to say the least in some cases. Single deployment, zero downtime update does not exist. I don't know who said this, but this is not correct. This actually allows you to install a package, run reconfigure, and not run all of the database migrations that could cause downtime, but that's not the same as zero downtime.
Yeah, and like that's what I was kind of getting at. I'm okay with. I just want to check like what the effort level would be to replicate the unicorn stuff, just because people oftentimes will put. I'm not sure how many folks are actually using the readiness checks in their load balancers. We don't really recommend it, as you can see here. And then B, for single nodes, people put it in cron jobs and things like that, and the impact tends to be low because Unicorn handles it fairly well, and you might get a reset in like Workhorse and things like that, but they should restart fairly quickly. Although I guess you have downtime on migration runs unless you follow zero downtime migration procedures.
I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of customers aren't just pinging the roots of the main web application as their health check, which is actually almost more horrible. So if we put that documentation in there to say, here's a listener on this port and check for this, that would be so much better.
Josh, how far away are we from the GitLab provisioner?
We're still trying to figure out what the gaps are.
Because like just giving documentation to the customers and like having this behavior change is gonna be, this is not gonna be enterprise application. I'll tell you that much.
But Marin, it's not like we're telling people to change from X to Y. We never had a specification before, so it's kind of like new. It's not a breaking change if you want, right?
That's playing with syntax, right? Like it's semantics rather.
Yeah, but it's not. But it's not going to break by adding this. By adding the web export, it's not going to break anyone's configuration, is it?
No.
Not that we know of, but
yeah.
I think the other concern is people relying on Unicorn's behavior, likely, and it just happened to work, and now it's not going to. Well, you'll get a 30 to 60 second sort of queue time.
It is. So I would say that like it's very terrible that like we have Unicorn behaving as is, because it actually creates a false impression of the zero downtime, because this is working only on the Unicorn, very specific circumstances. It doesn't work at all for the Workhorse, Gitali, nor Pages, or anything else that we're gonna introduce in the future. So technically, the current state is just undefined for me. It just works by coincidence, pretty much.
Yeah.
It
probably
works.
They just didn't know, or notice rather.
But the point is, it worked. We built a lot of things around it, and we depend heavily on it as well. Us on GitLab.com right now, no, since Jar started taking all nodes out of rotation and like handling things properly. But up until what was that? When did you start doing that, Jar? October? No. December last year.
No, it was December last year, yeah. We were always issuing hubs while we were taking live traffic with takeoff.
And we were recommending this to our customers.
But also it wasn't working, right? I mean, like we can't pretend
it wasn't working well.
There were huge error spikes every time we did that.
Yeah,
but yes, but with the amount of traffic that GitLab.com has.
Yeah.
Which is different to.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, again, semantics.
Yeah, you probably find like a lot of these people do upgrades on the weekends. Like I've worked in corporate environments, and you know, so easy. You shut everything down on Saturday morning, redeploy.
Yep.
No one needs downtime.
But while we can parallelize, I think Craig left. unfortunately. But while we can parallelize these efforts to have this running in parallel on GitLab.com, I don't think you can even think of putting this as a default inside of the package until our customers, self-managed customers, have an option that we can recommend with some confidence.
So the roadmap to that is basically the new health check, and then us rolling that out on GitLab.com, getting some confidence around it, and then like a release or two after that, we basically tell everyone be using the web exporter and like, you know, different ports and like /readiness. Is that?
Yes, I would even say that if we should like start messaging around that as soon as we deploy on the Canary and like just test that it works. The sooner we start, we should notify the support and our enterprise customers about upcoming change. Because I would assume that a lot of them, they're gonna, for now, stick with the unicorn and not even enable Puma, but they need to be aware ahead of the time. So I would assume that the sooner we start the messaging as a blog post or anything like that, and like the design, how that thing's gonna progress, it's basically better.
And that messaging will have to go through every single blog post wherever whenever we release up until we decide to deprecate the old thing, right? Like the classic deprecation model. So removing the old endpoints or changing that actual behavior is going to have to go for 13, GitLab 13.
That should be fairly easy, right? We to leave the /. Can I just ask a question? How much testing are we doing for like how Unicorn will behave with the new readiness? Like, because obviously your focus is on Puma. Is Unicorn just going to work? Are you confident about it?
Yes, I'm actually creating 2 code paths to support Unicorn and Puma with the same approach. So basically, the blackout period is supported for both of them. There is separate health check for checking on the master whether there are like available Unicorn workers. So it's basically one solution for like all types. It's like once we migrate to this approach because it seems
for both.
that this is the approach that we should be doing.
Good testing on it, yeah. Cool. Where are we now? Is it onto my point? Or...
Oh, didn't we talk about that? Is there a plan to concurrency? Oh no, sorry, we didn't.
Yeah. So like this is really like with the Sidekick. Like really, the best thing to do was to like take a machine or basically disable Chef on a machine and in the Sidekick fleet and basically bisect the values for concurrency. You can't get the load that you want outside of production. Like production load is production load at the moment. And really what we did there was that we changed the value, we monitored it, and then we adjusted it up or down until we came to the right values. And the latency differences that we saw were substantial, and the way that it operated. And I just don't think that you can just sort of use a load balancing tool, which is normally testing the same pieces of code over and over and over, to kind of get what those values are going to be. And I just think that we should, like, rather than kind of do something in staging and then use that to define what is going to be in production, we should get the right value for production, at least while it's in Canary. And it's a pretty, it's a pretty basic thing to do, but we set the concurrency, we test it with that for maybe an hour, and then we adjust it up or down accordingly until we get the right value.
So Andrew, like to give you some like what was done, we were working with the quality team on testing our performance suite. I think I don't know, in 20 different configurations for different architectures. So if you reach to the quality team, they actually, I can maybe link you also to the issue. They actually have some very, I say, quite good understanding about what to expect with the Puma. We actually found out that, like, for now, it's something like about 8 threads per worker. It's kind of sweet spot to use in most cases. But it's still like augmented traffic. It's not like real traffic. So the pattern for real traffic, I would assume, is gonna be completely different, likely.
That's the thing, is the workloads, totally different. But I just don't think I don't think there's any harm in taking, using that as the initial value and then pushing it up a little bit and pushing it down and seeing like where the sweet spot is for our traffic. Because it's it's going to be, we're going to be rolling this out, and at the very least we need to make sure that it's the same speed as what it was before. It does make a big difference.
So do we, like, when do we want to carry out those tests?
While it's in Canary, when Canary's got the same volume traffic as the production nodes.
So what is our success criteria for deciding, all right, we are ready to consider moving to production? Like, do we want to, like, if we define that, maybe we can add an appendix there to say, and we executed this test in Canary.
So I would say that the success criteria is we have one of the Canary boxes running Puma, one of them running Unicorn, and like P99, not 95. P99 is at or below.
Untouched.
Yeah.
Okay.
And sorry, P50, P75, and P99.
For how long?
For like an hour at peak time. All
right. So maybe we can play it safe and say for a full day.
I mean, Andrew, you are saying lower than the Unicorn?
Yeah.
Right. It could be roughly about that. If you configure that in the thread one,
I'm not
it's gonna be equally the same.
Yeah.
It's another configuration. It's gonna be a little like.
Okay. So can we say within like P50, P75, P99 within 5%?
I would say that I would say different. We could start like with T1. It would basically work pretty much very similarly to how Unicorn is working, and it should receive pretty much the same numbers. Once you move into T2, you should see a slightly larger latency because of the Ruby MRI, but very big uptick in number of the memory, like smaller memory usage.
But Camille, we don't, the memory, we've got 120 gigs to play with on GitLab.com. So obviously that's important for certain customers, but for us, we want the latency to, we want to optimize on latency, not on memory. And obviously that's different for GitLab.com from other places, right?
I'm saying it's like a balancing act. It really depends on what number of threads you choose, like different numbers you're gonna see, because there is like the problem of the context switching, and in some cases it's basically would be better, but technically increasing number of threads would slightly add up to the latency because you know how the Ruby MRI.
But certainly we know that for we can get the same. Even if it means fewer threads, we can get the same performance in Puma and Unicorn. And on GitLab.com, what we're optimizing for is performance, not memory, right?
Yes. So like T1 should give you exactly the same results, if you ask about that.
T1 being one thread.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay.
Because this is exactly behavior of the Unicorn today. It gives you exactly the same.
Yeah.
It will give you exactly the same results. So I'm just setting expectations clear, because like Puma is not to increase the performance; it's increase like the utilization of the resources, and Puma gonna add some latency if you run in multiple threads and some endpoints are CPU saturated. The workaround around that is like run in the T1 is gonna run exactly as Unicorn. The penalty then it's like there are more context switches, but usually it's cheaper than like the workload that you run on the given.
I get it. Yeah. Let's take a look at it and assess. Like, I think that's the thing to say. Is like, let's run it with a production workload. The other thing is that, you know, the work that Grant and those guys are doing, I'm guessing that they were I don't know what they were optimizing for, but I'm guessing it wasn't pure performance, where that's going to be more of our, you know, we're going to be pushing towards that rather than, because there's obviously downstream effects of this as well, right? And two of them are, first of all, you know, if things are running slower, you know, if we're holding transactions open, that means we have PG bouncer connections that get more saturated, because the time that we hold a connection open with PG bouncer takes longer. And we have seen that in the past where, you know, there's a whole bunch of knock-on effects. And so really we want to keep like latency down on GitLab.com.
Yes, like it's a balancing act. I know that like when we are testing with the quality team, like the result that we receive when running Puma, basically for the half memory, like we lose something about like 5% or 10% of the performance. So actually, like it was the trading, like we increase resource utilization for some penalty on the amount of the RPS that you can process technically.
Yeah.
But like it's kind of like unavoidable unless we start running on the JRuby, which has different threading model. But Puma, it's optimized for better resource utilization, not for the latency.
Or Truffle Ruby is the other one. Yeah, I mean, just to kind of like a memory, we're at about 40% on the web nodes. So, you know, like memory for us is but yeah, let's test it and see what we see. But okay. Yeah, I
do we have everything answered? Sorry, Andrea, for interrupting you, but we are going 15 minutes over already. So do we have the answers that we need to parallelize this work?
Can we just assign, in that actions section, can we just explicitly assign people or teams at least?
Can we order these actions? Because like I would order these actions on the requirement on the canary, requirement on the production. What are the steps and on by default to make it clear? Because right now we pursue for the canary. So let's have the section for the canary. Run on canary. And let's order these actions. Run on production. On by default. So for the run on the canary, what about documentation? Do we need that right now?
We need to know what we are doing. So at least that part we need. Whether it's in actual official documentation is a different question.
Okay, so
oh, things are going too fast. I'm not going to touch this.
Cool. So I guess like this one for the ensuring the health check works is for the staging. Are these all items for the staging? I guess so.
Yeah, they are. They are.
Because then, like for the canary, we have run on staging succeeds basically. This is our prerequisite. Run on staging succeeds. 0 downtime. Deployments to work. This is the prerequisite for the running on the canary.
Yeah. All right, increased traffic. So, Jaro, we got involved here just by being loud. Do we want to get anyone else from the reliability teams to try to work on this, or are you okay with driving the changes?
Well, you know I'm okay with driving the changes. I can ask to see if anyone is willing to jump on it, but I just don't think. I mean, this famous last words, but I just don't think there's a lot of work here.
From our side, no.
Yeah, I think on the testing part, there's going to be a bit of work but I actually would like to be involved with that anyway. Yeah, Andrew's noting here we should build a dashboard for comparing performance between Unicorn and Puma. So the first main thing we're going to have to do is make sure the Canary stage is getting the same amount of traffic, and then once we're there, then we can start doing these comparisons.
Sounds good. 0.
And just a minor point, we must use ELK to measure those latencies and definitely not Prometheus.
Yeah, you defined it because P50, yeah, that's fine.
If we get this running on GitLab.com before the 22nd, is the plan then to have it turned on by default in the omnibus for the next release for 12.4?
It can't be. It just can't be until GitLab 13 regardless. That's a change of behavior, change of the defaults. And that needs to be going through the deprecation process. But I'm talking as a former distribution lead. I'm going to leave that to the distribution team to decide how to run that.
So actually, I would say that differently. It's really up to the PMs understanding whether any of the features built in the 12.x branch would require running on Puma to make this switch.
That is okay, but it's still a change, like a major change in the default behavior, and that's a major breaking change. Because there are certain other things to consider.
So maybe 13.0 gonna happen earlier then, and
it's possible.
It's maybe that's the solution for that.
Yeah. Like no one is saying that it has to happen in May. Like it can happen sooner. We can do more major releases if it's necessary to get this thing accomplished. As long as it's like clear that there is a breaking change coming. But I'm gonna leave that for others, so others can make decisions.
I think that at this point it's really like more product management decision, what they want to do with that.
Yeah. All right, I think we're okay with like the run up to staging in Canary is already big enough for now. We don't have to define every single detail for run on production and run on default. We have them. Do you agree, all of you?
Yes, yeah, I know what we need to do in order to run on to conclude staging from my side.
Should we gather all this into an epic or something? Or?
Oh yeah, you already have an epic, right? Yeah, Puma development. Do we want to have this? Yeah, no. We should not have it in this epic that is at the top. This one is product development.
A com epic, yeah. It needs to be in.
Yeah, it needs to be in rollout Puma on GitLab.com.
Yeah.
Or rollout Puma. So yeah, we can create a separate epic for this.
There is
here's a problem.
There is already epic name enable Puma on GitLab.com.
There is?
Yes.
Where?
we use that for tracking like the Puma.com progress. So I'm gonna link that somewhere in the random place. You should see that if you scroll down a little.
Thanks. Instead of linking it at the top, I'm gonna move it to the top. All right. GL infra. Okay, perfect. Because then we can track things there.
Because like this is more like infra oriented. So as our internal customer, and like we have this split for the implementation versus implementation on the environment versus development.
Cool. No, that sounds good. And I actually realized that it says expanding on discussion from at the very top. It's that specific epic. Jar, you're very good at writing up these proposals these days. Could you translate this into the epic, edit the epic?
Yeah, sure. I can get the issues open. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. I'm gonna leave the meeting. You can all chat if you want to continue, but my requests are satisfied. So I'll chat with you all later.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
I think we are done for now. So
yeah, I think we're done.
I just ask you for a review only.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Camille.